What's up, Christine?
Hi, how are you?
Awesome. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you for having me on.
Of course.
I appreciate it.
What's going on?
Okay, so my overall question is, how do I overcome my habit of people-pleasing and learn to value my own worth and desires just as much as the people around me? And I can give you some kind of background.
Yeah, back it up.
I've I've been dating my boyfriend for over a year now, and it's going really well. We are each other's best friends, and our relationship, while not free of conflict, is based in love and respect. For the past couple of weeks, however, I've been feeling kind of this resentment building towards him, and I just couldn't name it or figure out where it was coming from. But the other night we started chatting about our future plans together, and eventually it got pretty emotional. And he told me that he's been getting very frustrated because he sees me continually putting his desires and goals and even every little small thing above my own. And essentially he said that he's been dying for me to push back more and to voice my opinions and to challenge him more. And it was kind of this big light bulb moment for me. And I realized I'd been feeling resentful. I'd gotten into this habit of always shoving down my own needs and making his needs the end all be all. It also really just hit me how many times I'd gotten frustrated with him and then talked myself out of saying anything because I ended up thinking I'm being unreasonable or blaming myself for whatever. So I really just want to work on this for the sake of our relationship and also just for the sake of myself as an individual.
There you go. I'm glad you added that second part because you were like, I need to help my people pleasing so that he can be better.
I knew you were going to say that. I was
awesome.
How to add that in there.
Good for you.
And also for context, I'm Catholic. We're both Catholic. And deep down, I know my value as a child of God. But for some reason, I always think everyone else's problems or goals are more important than my own. So I wanted to ask your advice.
Well, I appreciate that. Who taught you that?
I knew you were going to ask that. So I have an incredible family, but as a child,
Christine, I'm going to interrupt you a little bit as we go, okay? Because here's what I want to do. I want to add some abrupt intrusions into the scripts that you run, okay?
Okay.
You have such amazing scripts that you have just that are on loop in your mind, and I can hear them as you're talking. We're best friends. Everything is perfect, except when we talk about the future, we got really emotional and he was angry and I realized I'm shoving my frustrations down. I have an amazing family, except for the time, right? So I want you to stop. My guess is, before you even talk, my guess is the way you have learned to navigate life is to make sure everything is shiny and where it needs to be, and that everybody is, you're the peacekeeper extraordinaire. Right?
Yes.
And if everything's just where it goes, and if all the sheets are washed and folded, and if everything's in the on the chart on the fridge, everything works out in the end. And how old are you right now?
24.
Okay. If it hasn't already, you're just waking up to, you can do everything right and everything can still fall apart.
Yes.
And that's a
very much so.
Scary, anxious proposition for somebody who's a peacekeeper.
Yes.
Or the game of whack-a-mole that you've been playing your whole life gets way more complex and chaotic, right?
It really does.
Okay, so tell me about growing up. Who told you that you, what you feel and what you want and what you think doesn't matter?
Yeah, well, it's pretty obvious. It's pretty heavy. I was sexually abused as a kid for many years by one of my cousins.
Okay.
And it was essentially like a brother to me. We're all very, very close. I didn't really tell my parents. I could we could sit and chat for many days about this whole story, but I didn't tell my parents until much later. And then, this is what I meant by how great my family is they've been so supportive, and my parents have so made sure to tell me that it's not my fault. I'm not responsible to heal the family. You know, they've been incredible. And yet I have still felt this intense burden to make sure everybody else is okay.
Right.
And I've been to therapy. I did EMDR therapy, and I've always felt this I don't know, just like guilt and trying to make sure everybody else felt okay, even
Sure.
though even though I was the one with, this intense thing happened to me, and I always felt like everybody else's dealing with it was worse than what I was dealing with, which is crazy saying out loud. But and so if I had to take a wild guess, I think that's where it comes from. But
I don't know that that's a wild guess, but yes. So let's just pretend that's it. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
When you are the chief secret carrier of your family,
Mm-hmm.
you can't let anybody know, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's hell.
Yeah.
Because you sit at a kitchen table with people that you know love you. And it sounds like your parents often don't get that right. And yours did, right?
Mm-hmm.
When you finally told them,
they really did.
they said, I believe you. And did they go to war
100%.
against this guy?
Yeah, it's very complicated, but very much so. And
good.
they were 100% on my side. And oh my gosh, they've been my biggest cheerleaders.
It's awesome.
They're great.
So
Yeah.
that tells me that you spent a big chunk of your childhood sitting at a table completely disconnected from the safest place in the world.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you've learned to operate and make sure nobody knew.
Yeah.
And
it was always this intense kind of shame secret.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
Because the thing that if somebody actually knew you, and this is what's so evil with the kid, is they think if people actually know me, everything I know and love goes away. So the best gift I can give the family is to put all of me in a jar and throw me into a big hole, right? So no one can ever find out. And again, that thing kept you safe while you were repeatedly dragged back into hell by a cousin.
Mm-hmm.
And then you've got this guy 20 years later, 10 years later, 15 years later, that looks at you and says, I want to know all of you. And your body starts screaming at you, don't do that again, because last time that got us hurt. And yet that's the only path forward, right?
Yeah.
So we can go through a bunch of therapeutic gymnastics. Are you at a place now where you can think about what happened and your body doesn't go right back there?
Yeah, the EMDR totally kind of rewired my whole brain. So I can talk about it super openly.
Okay.
But yeah, there's definitely
Can you feel it?
Side effects.
Can you feel it?
Yeah, for sure.
I know in my personal life, I got very good at talking about things, but that allowed me to keep everything at arm's distance. And so I never really healed until recently.
I hadn't thought about that. Maybe that's a little more accurate. Yeah.
Okay. There's the cognitive part, the talking part, the thinking about it part is one piece. But until your body can process it, it can metabolize it. It continues to fight underneath the surface, and it's real disorienting because you're trying to connect with the person in front of you, and you know you want to connect, and your body knows it feels so good to connect, and yet it won't let you because it's still fighting this other war.
Mm-hmm.
Does that ring true?
Yeah.
Okay.
Definitely does. Yeah.
Okay. So sometimes trauma response, and I don't want to minimize this, what you went through is one of the evilest traumas you can go through.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And I know it's like, no, I went and did this thing and now it's over. That's not how that works, generally speaking. Okay. The only word I can give you moving forward, besides to consider going back and saying, okay, I can think about it, I can talk about it, but I have got to do some, the nerd word is you got to go do some body work. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Whether that's Arthur Levine style stuff. If you're in DC there, there's going to be some trauma practitioners that will work through it. Here's what it looks like. Often they'll make you lay down or sit down, and they'll sit behind you or right next to you. A good trained therapist will. And when you go back to wherever you go back to, they walk with you back through hell. Except this time you got somebody with you. And they might put their hand on your shoulder. They might hold your hand. They might put their hand on the back of your head, but they walk with you and they teach your body, you are safe now. Mm-hmm. Okay. Does the thought of that get your heart beating faster again?
A little.
Okay.
But at the same time, I think my therapist kind of did. It was maybe a little different.
But y'all are there?
Yeah.
Okay,
And
cool.
yeah, I haven't gone to therapy in probably a couple years now, but it was for like over 2 years.
Okay.
But,
And
yeah, we
possibly,
did like a lot of that. Yeah.
possibly sitting back with a professional now a few years later
Okay.
and saying, okay, I've found myself at peace in neutral space, but now I'm entering back into a relationship that's going to get physical at some point if it's not already.
Mm-hmm.
And those same things that I crave are also those same things that my body put GPS pins in that says you're not safe.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah.
The word I'm going to give you is practice.
Okay.
And here's what I want you to tell your boyfriend. He sounds like he's a pretty amazing guy.
He is. He really is. He's
Okay.
great.
Is he your forever guy? Gross.
Yeah, I think so.
Gross. All right. So you've got this forever guy. So he's going to do life with you.
Mm-hmm.
And I heard this said the other day. I was working with a couple, and it's one of the most amazing lines I've ever heard. I looked at the guy and I was like, I'm going to steal that line. His girlfriend looked at him and said, I've got so much baggage. And he said, well, you told me you wanted someone to do life with, and this is life. So I'm here to do this with you. And I just remember going, oh my gosh, you're the greatest, man. What a great line. But here's the thing. I want you to sit down and say, what wasn't safe when I was a kid, I'm going to practice as it becomes safe as an adult. And so I want you to tell him, here's my hand sign for I'm going to speak my needs. And here's what's going to make me feel safe. And it might be I need you to hold my hand for a while I tell you I don't like it when X, Y, or Z, or good God, you've got to brush your teeth. Or when you don't put your dishes in the dishwasher, it makes me feel less than. Whatever the things are. I don't want to live in a house like this. I want to live in a house like this. I want you to practice it. And then here's the deal. If you can be weird with me, if you can hold his hand or put one hand open on the table, and put one hand on your chest when you feel this, because I want you just to metabolize that feeling of angst. I am saying what I need out loud. I will not carry any more secrets. I'm not a secret carrier anymore. And his peace is his responsibility.
Yeah. Your
peace is your responsibility.
Okay.
And all you're going to do is practice this stuff. But it's going to feel awkward. It's going to feel weird. And you're going to feel isolated. And you're probably going to get angry. And you're probably going to cry sometimes. All those things are right and good and exactly as they should be.
Yeah.
Is that fair?
Yeah.
Can you do that? Give me a thing that you want to tell him. What is a want or a need that when you think like, nope, not going to say it. What is it?
Sounds small, but I hate that he plays everything by ear and doesn't plan out things.
All right, so here's the way. When you sit down with him, here's the way we're going to say this. I don't feel safe when you tell me we're just going to figure it out as we go. A way you can love me is to give me a plan for this weekend's trip.
Okay.
Where are we going to go? Where are we going to eat? By the way, when my wife did something similar, I said, all right, well, we're going to eat, and then we're going to go hang out, and then we're going to like probably eat again, and then we'll go to like a show or something. And that was my love. I thought that was me being like really on top of things. And she was like, where and what time? And I was like, whoa, slow down, right? But man, what a gift that was. But it was different when she said, I get so mad that you're so lazy, you never plan anything. She never said that, but you don't plan anything versus a way you can love me is to tell me what restaurants we're going to eat at and what we're going to do.
Okay.
It would really make me feel loved if we could make a budget together.
Okay.
Does that make sense? Be very specific with him in the ways that you need and want to be loved. Give me one more. A more complicated one.
Oh gosh, you're gonna laugh at this one, but I think I probably want to get married sooner than he does.
Okay. Have you told him?
No, not really.
Why not?
That's kind of what. Yeah, that's what kind of started this whole argument a little bit. Was I don't know. He could tell that I wanted to get married sooner, and he's like, "Tell me what you want." And I'm so scared of putting pressure on him and making him feel like I don't want to like force him into anything, obviously, or I don't know. And yeah, it's scary. And I feel like I'm going to scare him away if I don't know if I put pressure on him.
Have you told him that?
I don't know if I have.
Okay. I want you to tell him exactly what you just told me.
Okay. But that's hard.
Yeah. But you also know the hell that is carrying secrets.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we're done with that, right?
Yeah, for sure.
I want that to become a core part of who you become. Which is, I'm not carrying anybody's secrets. It's not my job.
Okay.
I'm going to be honest, and the best way I can show up and love somebody is to let them know how they can love me. And maybe this guy's worried about scaring you. He don't want to move too fast, right? He's scared of, and you end up in this weird dance when you both want the same thing, but you don't know how to say it, right? But good on you for healing. I do think it would be good to, even if you just go for a couple of sessions, to circle back and say, I'm in love. Ooh, gross. I'm in love, and I want to practice speaking my needs out loud. That'd be awesome. But also, I don't know if you need to go back to a therapist. It sounds like you just need to practice it with this guy, and you've got a guy that you can practice it with. And disagreements and fights and arguments is part of the deal. That doesn't mean your relationship isn't strong. In fact, it's pretty amazing. And the fact that he said, I want to know you, what you want, what you're thinking, tells me he loves you and he wants to know more of you. You've got to practice letting yourself be seen and known. And I'm telling you, kid, the world is going to be a better place. Thanks for the call, Christine.